Welcome to the Echoes of Ihsan podcast. Today we're going deep into a collection of hadith that honestly, when I first started reading, I thought rings.
Right.
But it's Sunan Abu Dawud, book 29, all about signet rings.
It's fascinating. You know, rings, they seem so simple, right?
Yeah.
It's like a little piece of jewelry. But as we'll see, they held like a really profound significance in early Islamic society.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just thinking about it, like when I think of rings, I think of just adornment.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, I'm ready to have my mind blown.
Yeah.
Where do we even begin with something like this?
I think a great place to start is the story of the Prophet Muhammad's own signet ring.
Okay.
You know, this isn't just about like a piece of jewelry. It's like a window into the historical context of the time.
Oh, you're talking about the narration where he wanted to correspond with the Persian rulers and then wouldn't accept a letter without a seal.
Exactly. Imagine you're the prophet, right?
Yeah.
You're establishing a new faith. You're trying to communicate with these powerful empires and these letters. I mean, these aren't just, like, hey, what's up?
Right.
These are diplomatic overtures, right?
Yeah.
Carrying the weight of, like, a nascent religion.
Right.
And in that context, a signet ring, I mean, it becomes more than just an accessory. It's like a symbol of authority.
Totally.
Right, a mark of authenticity.
It makes you realize, like, how big of a deal these interactions were,
Yeah.
And the Persians, they weren't
just anybody, right?
Yeah, they were
known for, they were known for their bureaucracy.
Yeah, exactly.
Their elaborate systems of administration.
It was like a guarantee.
A signet ring in that world was like an official stamp. Right, a guarantee of legitimacy.
Yeah, wow.
So the prophet, recognizing like the importance of these like cultural nuances, right?
Right.
He commissions this silver ring, and it's engraved with Muhammad, the Apostle of Allah.
That's powerful.
It is.
That's not just a signature. It's like a declaration.
Exactly.
And to think that ring, according to several narrations, was passed down through the first 4 caliphs.
Right. I mean, it's like a tangible connection to those early leaders of the Muslim community.
Each time it was used.
Yeah.
Like it carries the legacy of the prophet. And the authority of the caliphate.
And you think about, it's almost like holding...
It gives me chills.
Holding a piece of history, right?
Yeah.
Imagining those hands, those moments of decision-making that shaped the course of early Islam.
Wow. But wait, wasn't there something about this ring being lost?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
The mystery of the lost ring, right. One narration tells us that during the time of Caliph Uthman, the ring was accidentally dropped into a well.
Oh, no.
And despite all their efforts to retrieve it, it vanished, right? Just like gone, leaving behind only its legend.
Wow, it's not just like a historical artifact.
Right.
It's like a lost treasure,
Exactly.
Imbued with religious and cultural significance. I wonder if people are still out there looking for it.
Right.
Okay, so we've established that signet rings were very powerful symbols of authority. But the hadith also go into the materials used, right?
They do, yeah. And this is where we start to see this interplay between practicality, cultural norms, and like spiritual values.
Okay.
So the prophet, who clearly favored silver over gold for men's rings, and that distinction, it wasn't arbitrary.
Why silver, though? Was it simply like a matter of availability or cost?
Yeah.
Or was there something deeper at play?
I think both factors likely contributed. Silver was certainly more accessible in 7th century Arabia than gold.
Right.
Right?
Right.
It was kind of like the everyday metal. Yeah. Less ostentatious.
Yeah.
More practical. But beyond that, right?
Yeah.
The preference for silver, I think, seems to align with this deeper message about humility, a value that's like deeply embedded in Islamic teachings.
It's interesting,
Yeah.
Cause in a world where gold often represents wealth and status,
right?
The prophet chose like this,
this simpler, humbler metal.
Yeah, it's a subtle message.
It is.
But it speaks volumes.
Right. It's about aligning your outward appearance with your inward values, right? It's about reminding ourselves that true worth lies not in material possessions, but like in character, in deeds.
Walking the walk.
Right, exactly.
Not just talking the talk.
That's it.
But the hadiths don't stop there. They also talk about materials that were discouraged, even prohibited, like iron and copper.
Yeah, and this is where the discussion gets even more fascinating. I think it wasn't just about aesthetics, right? It was about symbolism, about breaking away from, like, pre-Islamic practices. And perhaps even addressing, like, potential health concerns.
What were the reasons behind the prohibitions?
So imagine pre-Islamic Arabia, idolatry was widespread, right? And idols were often crafted from metals like copper and iron. These metals were also associated with weaponry, with warfare, right? With a time of, like, conflict and disunity. And so by advising against their use in rings, the prophet might have been guiding his followers towards, like, a new way of life. A break from those old associations.
There's like a symbolic purification.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a shedding of the past, a turning towards a new era of peace and spiritual focus.
It's fascinating how even something
as seemingly small as a ring can be imbued with such profound meaning.
Absolutely.
It becomes this symbol of transformation. A rejection of what came before and an embrace of, you know, a new path.
It's making me rethink my own relationship with jewelry and adornment. You start to see how our choices, even in these seemingly insignificant details, can reflect, like, deeper values and beliefs.
And that awareness, that mindfulness, I think that's precisely what these hadith encourage us to cultivate. They invite us to question our assumptions, to examine the motivations behind our choices, and to consider the impact of our actions, no matter how small they may seem.
Absolutely. It's a powerful reminder that every aspect of our lives, even our choice of rings, can be an expression of our faith. A way of seeking Allah's pleasure.
A way of seeking Allah's pleasure. But it's not just the material that matters.
The hadith also mention specific fingers that were discouraged for wearing rings.
Yes, the middle and index fingers of the right hand.
You got it. And this is where we dive into the realm of, like, cultural beliefs and symbolic interpretations, which is a space where scholars have, like, debated for centuries.
I have to admit, this is where I get a little lost. Why those fingers specifically? What's the significance there?
Yeah, that's a question that has, like, puzzled many, right? Some scholars believe that it might be related to, like, cultural practices of that time, perhaps associating those fingers with actions or gestures that were considered, like, inappropriate or superstitious. Others suggest that it could have been a way to, like, visually distinguish Muslims from other groups who commonly wore rings on those fingers.
So it's about establishing, like, a distinct...
a visual marker.
Identity.
Of belonging to this new community.
It's fascinating how even something as simple as what finger you wear a ring on...
I know, right?
...can become imbued with meaning.
And while we may not have, like, definitive answers to all of these questions, the fact that these details were mentioned, so specifically in the hadith, highlights their importance. It suggests that even seemingly minor choices carried weight, you know? They were considered worthy of, like, guidance. It makes you think, right?
It really does. We've gone from the historical context of signet rings to the symbolic meanings of materials to the cultural nuances of specific fingers. It's incredible how much depth there is.
And we've only just begun. We haven't even touched on the perspectives on women and rings. Or the intriguing connection to bells and gold teeth.
Wait, bells and gold teeth. Oh my gosh, I'm even more curious now. This deep dive is full of surprises.
Let's delve into those. Fascinating tangents next. I think you'll find they connect to our discussion in some really intriguing ways.
I do it.
Welcome back.
It's remarkable, isn't it?
It is.
How just exploring the world of rings in these hadith leads us to these seemingly unrelated but equally fascinating topics.
It is.
We're talking about those mentions of bells and gold teeth.
Exactly.
To be honest, when I first came across those, I was a bit confused. Like, how do bells and gold teeth even fit into a conversation about signet rings?
The connection might not be immediately obvious, but if we kind of, like, step back and look at the broader picture, we see that they all relate to these themes of adornment, right? Boundaries and the spiritual dimensions of like our choices within Islam.
Okay, I'm all ears. Let's start with the bells. What was the Prophet's stance on them?
So the hadith tell us that the Prophet believed that bells attract negative spiritual entities, often referred to as jinn. And one narration even states that he said, there's a devil along with each bell.
Wow. That's
it's powerful.
It definitely puts the bells in a whole new light for me. I never associated them with anything negative before.
Yeah, it really highlights the emphasis Islam places on maintaining like a spiritually healthy and pure environment. Right. Even seemingly harmless objects like bells, if they're believed to invite negative spiritual influences.
Yeah, they were discouraged.
Yeah. It's a reminder that our surroundings can have a subtle but real impact on our spiritual well-being.
Absolutely.
So bells were off the table. What about the gold teeth?
Yeah, the gold teeth. Now that one.
That one, really.
Put me for a loop.
Yeah, so that hadith tells the story of Arfaja ibn Asad, a companion of the Prophet,
who lost his nose in battle.
Oh, wow.
And he initially had a silver nose made, but it caused him problems, perhaps like an infection or discomfort.
Right.
The Prophet, then advised him to replace it with a gold one.
That's interesting. So even though we've seen a general preference for silver over gold, particularly for men, there were exceptions, especially for medical reasons.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This highlights the flexibility and compassion within Islamic teachings, right?
Yeah.
When it came to health and well-being, practicality and necessity were taken into consideration.
Yeah, it's a beautiful example of balancing principles with individual circumstances.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've gone from signet rings to bells to gold teeth.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey.
Yeah, it has been. But if we zoom out a bit, like what's the overarching message here? What can we as listeners take away from all of this?
I think one of the key takeaways is the importance of
intention and mindfulness.
Yep.
Even in the seemingly smallest details of our lives, whether it's choosing a ring, adorning ourselves, or even the objects we surround ourselves with. Our choices have both practical and spiritual implications.
It's a reminder that everything we do, every decision we make, can be an act of worship, an expression of our faith, if we approach it with the right intention.
Precisely. And that intention should be rooted in seeking the pleasure of Allah, in aligning ourselves with His guidance, and in striving to live a life that reflects the values of Islam.
It's about finding that delicate balance between adornment and simplicity, between expressing our individuality and conforming to a higher purpose, between the material and the spiritual.
And that's a lifelong journey, right? It's a continuous process of learning, reflecting, and growing with each step we take.
So we've covered a lot of ground, exploring the significance of signet rings, the symbolism of materials, and even these seemingly unrelated but interconnected topics of bells and gold teeth.
Right.
I feel like my mind is buzzing with new insights and perspectives.
I love that. And we're not done yet. There's still so much to unpack.
Okay.
Especially when it comes to the views on women and rings.
I'm all ears. I know this is a topic that often sparks debate and diverse interpretations.
It certainly does. And navigating those nuances requires, I think, careful consideration of the historical context, the specific wording of the hadith, and the various scholarly opinions that have emerged over time.
This is where I think your expertise is particularly valuable.
Oh.
It's easy to get lost in the details or to misinterpret things.
Yeah, for sure.
Without a proper understanding of the broader context.
You're right. It's crucial to approach these discussions with, like, humility, recognizing that our understanding is always evolving, right? And that there's room for different perspectives within the framework of Islamic teachings.
So let's dive into this complex and fascinating topic.
Let's do it.
What do the hadith tell us about women in rings, particularly when it comes to gold?
So the hadith offer like a nuanced perspective on this issue.
Okay.
There are narrations that suggest permissibility,
Okay.
but often with certain limitations, emphasizing modesty and avoiding like ostentatious displays of wealth.
Okay.
For instance, there is a hadith where the prophet gifted his granddaughter with a gold ring.
That seems to suggest that gold wasn't inherently forbidden for women.
Exactly.
Okay.
But then we also have narrations where the prophet cautions against excessive adornment with gold for women, drawing a parallel to the punishment of hellfire.
So that seems to contradict the previous hadith, creating a sense of confusion.
It's understandable to feel that way. But it's important to remember that these hadith were revealed in a specific historical and social context.
Right.
And the interpretations have evolved over time, and scholars have offered various explanations for these seemingly contrasting views.
So how do we reconcile these differing viewpoints?
One way to approach it is to consider the underlying principles and values that the hadith promote. For example, while adornment is generally permissible, Islam consistently emphasizes modesty, humility, and avoiding extravagance.
So it's not about like a blanket ban on gold, but rather a call to balance.
Yes, to moderation.
To moderation and to ensuring that our outward appearance reflects our inner commitment to Islamic values.
Precisely. It's about ensuring that our adornment doesn't become a source of pride or arrogance or a distraction from our spiritual pursuits.
This nuanced understanding makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It reminds us that Islam isn't about like rigid rules, but rather about guiding principles.
Yeah.
That we need to apply thoughtfully to our own lives and circumstances.
Absolutely. It's about understanding the spirit of the teachings, and striving to embody those values in our choices and actions.
So even though we might not have a simple yes or no answer when it comes to women and gold rings, the hadith provide us with this like framework for making informed decisions that align with our faith and values.
Exactly. It's about seeking knowledge, reflecting on the wisdom of the prophet, and making choices that bring us closer to Allah.
This deep dive has been an eye-opening experience.
It's been great.
It's amazing how much we can learn from these seemingly simple objects like rings.
I know, right?
They reflect so much about our history, our culture, and our spiritual aspirations.
You're absolutely right. It's a testament to the richness and depth of Islamic teachings, where even the smallest details can hold profound meaning and guidance.
I feel like we've only just scratched the surface.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm eager to continue exploring these ideas.
There's always more to learn.
Absolutely.
More to reflect on.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it, this continuous journey of seeking knowledge and deepening our understanding of our faith.
It's fascinating how much we've uncovered just talking about rings.
I know, right?
It's amazing. We've gone from like the historical significance of the prophet's propid signet ring to the symbolism of different materials, to the cultural nuances of specific fingers. We even we even touched on bells and gold teeth.
I know, bells and gold teeth.
Who knew, right?
It all fits in, though.
It does.
It's all connected, which is so cool. It is, and it's all, within this broader context of adornment and spiritual intention.
I feel like I've learned so much.
Me too, yeah.
About, like, how interconnected our choices are, even in, like, the smallest details of our lives.
Right.
And what kind of impact they have on our spiritual well-being.
And that's really, I think, at the heart of what these hadiths encourage us to cultivate, right?
Yeah.
Is that awareness, that mindfulness. They invite us to question our assumptions, to examine the motivations behind our choices, and to consider, the implications of our actions, both practical and spiritual.
So as we wrap up our deep dive, what would you say are some of the most important takeaways for our listeners?
Yeah.
Like, what are the things that we can carry with us as we navigate our own choices and adornment in the modern world?
Yeah, I think one of the most crucial takeaways is this emphasis on authenticity and sincerity. The prophet's signet ring, it wasn't just like a piece of jewelry, right?
Right.
It served a practical purpose. It represented his authority. It ensured the legitimacy of his communication.
It's a powerful reminder.
It is.
That, like, our outward appearance should reflect our inward state.
Yeah.
Our actions should align with our beliefs.
It's about walking the walk.
Yeah.
Not just talking the talk, right?
Yeah.
And that principle applies to everything, not just rings.
Right.
It's about ensuring that our choices, whether it's clothing, accessories, or even our online presence, reflect our commitment to Islamic values.
Another point that really resonated with me is the value of simplicity and humility.
Oh, yeah.
Especially in a world that often glorifies extravagance and materialism.
Absolutely. The preference for silver over gold, the warnings against excessive adornment.
Yeah.
You know, all of that points towards a way of life that prioritizes substance over superficiality. It's this reminder that true adornment comes from within, right? From cultivating noble character traits and living a life that is pleasing to Allah.
It's about recognizing that our worth isn't defined by what we own, but by who we are and the impact we have on others.
Beautifully said.
And that's incredibly liberating, I think.
It is.
And then lastly, I think it's important to acknowledge the flexibility and compassion that are inherent in Islamic teachings.
Yeah.
The example of Arfaja ibn Asad and the gold nose shows that rules can be adapted to accommodate individual circumstances.
Yeah.
Particularly when it comes to health and well-being.
It's a beautiful reminder that Islam is a religion of balance, of reason, and of mercy.
Yeah.
It's not about, like, rigid adherence to rules, but about understanding the spirit of the teachings.
Right.
And applying them thoughtfully to our own unique circumstances.
Right.
And that requires continuous learning, reflection, and engagement with these texts and with those who have dedicated their lives to understanding them.
As we conclude this deep dive into the hadith on signet rings, is there a final question or thought that you want to leave our listeners with?
Ooh, I like that.
Something to ponder as they continue on their own journeys of learning?
How about this? In a world that bombards us with messages about what to buy, how to look, and what defines success, how can we consciously choose adornment and possessions that reflect our commitment to Islamic values? How can we make those choices a form of worship, a way of seeking Allah's pleasure and drawing closer to Him?
That's a powerful question.
Yeah.
And a challenging one.
It is.
It invites us to be more mindful, more intentional.
Yes.
In every aspect of our lives.
Yeah.
It reminds us that our faith isn't confined to the mosque or the prayer rug.
Right.
It permeates every choice we make, every action we take.
Yeah.
Even something as seemingly simple as choosing a ring.
And that's where the true beauty lies.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
In recognizing that connection, that intentionality in every step we take.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the hadith.
It's been a pleasure,
on signet rings.
Yeah.
We hope you found it as insightful and enriching as we did.
Until next time, may Allah guide us all towards that which is good and pleasing to Him.